please, pretend to be my husband for 5 minutes.
Some loves break you, and some loves change everything. This is Amara's story, a young woman who loved a billionaire, ignored his lies and betrayals, and paid the price. One night, her world shattered, and she never imagined what would come next. If you love emotional, suspenseful stories, hit that like button and subscribe, because you don't want to miss a single moment of this journey. Amara had always been the kind of woman who carried a quiet strength inside her, even if the world never really noticed it. At 25, she was ambitious, hardworking, and endlessly curious about life. She lived modestly in a small apartment, the walls decorated with photographs of places she dreamed of visiting one day, sketches of designs she wanted to bring to life, and sticky notes reminding herself that her dreams were never too big. Friends often told her she was too naive about love, too trusting, too willing to believe in the best of people. But Amara didn't mind. She believed that love, in its purest form, was worth waiting for, worth fighting for, and worth risking everything, even if it meant being vulnerable. It was a Friday evening when her life began to change. Her friend, Marissa, had insisted she attend a party, a gathering she swore would be life-changing because of the people who would be there. Amara had hesitated. Parties had never been her scene. She preferred quiet nights with a book, hours spent in her little studio working on her sketches. But something in Marissa's excitement was contagious, and before she knew it, she found herself stepping into a world completely unlike her own. The mansion was breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers hung like frozen waterfalls, reflecting the golden light across polished marble floors. The air smelled faintly of roses and expensive perfume. Guests laughed, clinked glasses, and floated across the rooms in elegant gowns and tailored suits. Amara felt a pang of self-consciousness in her simple dress, but she tried to ignore it. She stayed near the edges of the crowd, sipping her sparkling water, unsure of how to navigate this unfamiliar world. And then she saw him, Derek. He was leaning casually against the marble staircase, a glass of whiskey in one hand, a small, confident smile on his face. He was tall, impeccably dressed, and carried himself with a kind of effortless power that made everyone in the room notice. But when his eyes found Amara, it was like the room faded around her. He wasn't just looking at her, he was seeing her. Really seeing her. He walked over, and Amara felt her pulse quicken. He extended his hand, perfectly measured, confident but not overbearing. "Hi," he said, his voice smooth, rich, and magnetic. "I'm Derek, Amara," she replied, a little breathless. Her hands felt clammy, and she had to remind herself to breathe normally. "You're different," he said, tilting his head as he studied her. "Not just another face at this party. There's something about you." Amara felt a blush creep across her cheeks. She didn't know what to say. Her mind scrambled for something witty, intelligent, or even just interesting, but nothing came. That only seemed to amuse him. "Don't worry," he said with a laugh, a soft, low chuckle that made her stomach flutter. "I don't bite." And just like that, the spark ignited. Something in the way he looked at her, with warmth, curiosity, and a hint of challenge, made her feel alive in a way she hadn't in years. They talked that night for hours. Derek asked questions about her life, her dreams, the little things that mattered to her, and listened like every word was precious. He told her stories about his travels, his work, his life, never bragging, but confident. Intoxicating, larger than life. Amara found herself laughing freely, telling him things she had never told anyone. With every smile, every glance, every shared laugh, she felt herself being pulled deeper into his world, a world she had never imagined could be hers. Over the next few weeks, Derek made his intentions clear. Gifts began to appear at her doorstep, a bouquet of roses that smelled like spring in a glass vase, chocolates that melted perfectly on her tongue, tickets to a concert she had mentioned once, almost in passing. At first, she was cautious, and sure if all this attention was real. But there was something in his gestures, something in the way he remembered the tiniest details, that made her believe he truly cared. One evening, he invited her on a weekend getaway. Amara was hesitant. She didn't know Derek well enough to trust herself in such close proximity. But when she saw the sparkle in his eyes and the sincerity in his voice, she agreed. They flew first class, a plain cabin awash in soft golden light, and sat together, laughing quietly as the clouds passed beneath them. Their suite overlooked the ocean. The waves crashed softly below, the moonlight reflecting off the water, painting everything silver. "I've never felt this way before," Amara confessed one evening, as Derek poured her wine, her voice low, almost vulnerable. Derek's eyes softened, and he leaned closer. "And you never will feel this way with anyone else. Trust me," he said, placing his hand over hers, sending warmth through her entire body. The weekend was a montage of firsts, quiet walks along the beach, hand in hand, their laughter echoing in the night, late-night dinners under the stars, sharing secrets and dreams, whispered conversations on the balcony while the city lights flickered in the distance. Every glance, every touch, every word made Amara feel as if she had stepped into a dream where she mattered completely. One night, as they watched the city glow below from the balcony of Derek's penthouse, he spoke softly. "Amara, I think I could see myself with you forever." Her heart leapt. "Forever," she whispered, feeling tears prick at the corners of her eyes. She didn't know then that forever could also be the beginning of a heartbreak she had never imagined. But in that moment, she believed in him, in them, in the magic of a love that seemed perfect. Amara didn't see the shadows behind Derek's charm. She didn't see the cracks hidden behind his smile. All she saw was the man who made her heart race, the man who had made her feel alive, loved, and special in ways she had never thought possible. And for the first time in her life, she allowed herself to surrender completely, to believe that she had finally found her dream love. Note, all the characters are blacks, and they are all wealthy and wear expensive cloths, and the women wear expensive makeup. At first, Derek seemed perfect. He was charming, attentive, and always knew the right thing to say. He remembered little details about Amara's life, her favorite coffee, the way she laughed at silly jokes, even the way her hair fell over her shoulder when she was nervous. She felt seen, wanted, and adored, and in those moments, she told herself she was the luckiest woman alive. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, cracks began to appear in the picture-perfect image. It started with small criticisms. One evening, while she laughed at a joke with a colleague at a dinner party, Derek's smile vanished. "Amara," he said later, voice low, almost cold. "Why are you always so friendly with other men? Don't you know it makes me uncomfortable?" She paused, trying to explain. "It's just a joke, Derek. He's my friend, nothing more. You should be careful," he interrupted, his tone sharp. "I don't like feeling disrespected. You belong with me. I won't tolerate attention-seeking behavior." Amara felt a pang of fear, but she pushed it aside. Maybe he's right, she thought. I just have to be more careful. It's love, he just wants me to be loyal. Then came the controlling moments. He would insist on knowing where she was at all times, who she was with, and even what she was wearing. One afternoon, she was texting her best friend about meeting for coffee, when her phone buzzed. Derek's message read, "You're with him, aren't you?" "Don't lie to me, Amara." She froze. "I'm just having coffee with Marissa," she typed back. "I don't like you spending so much time with other people. Don't forget whose life you're in." Her chest tightened. Fear and confusion mingled with the love she still felt. She didn't want to lose him. Maybe I'm overreacting. She told herself, he loves me, that's why he's worried. It didn't stop there. Derek's moods could shift without warning. One moment he was warm and affectionate, the next, he could be cold, distant, or cruel. He criticized her appearance in private, never in public, but the words cut just the same. "You look tired," he said one evening as she tried on a new dress. "I thought someone dating a billionaire would know how to carry themselves better." Amara's eyes stung. I just wanted to look nice for you," she whispered. "You're trying, I see that," he said, his voice softer now. "But trying isn't enough. You have to be perfect." Even as the words hurt, she found herself apologizing, bending, changing, doing anything to keep the fragile peace. "He's just stressed. He doesn't mean it," she told herself over and over. "He'll change. He loves me." And then there were the nights she caught glimpses of his infidelity. A message on his phone accidentally left open, a friend who recognized him at a restaurant with another woman, a whispered rumor that reached her ears. Each time, her heart cracked, but her love convinced her to look away. "Amara," he said one night when she confronted him gently about a rumor she had heard, "you're imagining things. You're too insecure. Don't let jealousy ruin what we have." Her stomach twisted. "Am I imagining it? Maybe I am." She clung to the good moments, the soft kisses, the late-night walks where he held her hand, the way he smiled when she made him laugh. Those moments were like firelight in a dark room, warming her, making her believe that love could fix anything. Friends tried to warn her. "Derek isn't who you think he is," they said. "You deserve better." But Amara only smiled politely, brushing off their concern. "They don't understand him like I do," she thought. "He's just complicated. He's under pressure. He'll change. I know he loves me." Months went by like this, cycles of charm, warmth, and romance, followed by sharp words, cold shoulders, and quiet moments of fear. Every red flag she saw, every pang of doubt, she ignored. Every time, she told herself the same thing: love can fix anything. I can fix him. I just have to love harder. And in those moments of hope, when Derek's hand found hers and his smile softened the world, she believed it. She believed that this was her dream love. She didn't yet know that dreams can sometimes hide the deepest pain. Note all the characters are blacks and they are all wealthy and wear expensive cloths and the women wear expensive makeup. Amara's friends and family had begun to notice the change in her. They saw the way her smile sometimes faltered after a conversation with Derek, how she flinched when his name appeared on her phone, and how she spoke about him in a mixture of love and fear. One Saturday afternoon, her best friend Marissa invited her over for tea. "Amara, you need to listen to me," Marissa said gently, her brow furrowed with worry. "I know you love him, but this Derek, he's not good for you. Have you noticed how controlling he is? How he criticizes you all the time?" Amara sipped her tea slowly, keeping her gaze fixed on the cup. "Marissa, you don't understand him. He's just passionate. He loves me, and he's just worried because he cares." Marissa shook her head. frustration and concern in her eyes. Caring doesn't mean trying to control every part of your life. You deserve someone who lifts you up, not someone who makes you doubt yourself every day. Amara forced a small smile, trying to make Marissa feel better. I know you're worried, but he's not like that all the time. He's complicated. I just need to be patient. Love is worth it. Her younger sister, Leela, had tried a different approach. Amara, I saw him with that woman the other day. I don't know exactly what happened, but it didn't look good. You have to protect your heart. Amara's throat tightened, but she shook her head firmly. You're imagining things, Leela. I trust him. I know he loves me. I can't just believe rumors and accusations. You don't understand him like I do. Even her mother tried to reach her, her voice trembling with concern. Amara, I've watched you cry more nights than I can count. He's hurting you, baby. Please, promise me you won't let anyone treat you this way. Tears threatened to fall, but Amara held them back. She kissed her mother's cheek, whispering, I'm fine, Mom. I really am. I love him, and that's what matters. That night, after everyone had gone, Amara sat alone in her apartment. The room was dimly lit, shadows stretching across the walls. Mirroring the heaviness in her heart, she curled up on her bed, hugging a pillow. And let the tears finally come. Her mind replayed the day's events, Derek's sharp words, the way he had criticized her in front of his friends, the way he had disappeared for hours without a word, leaving her alone and anxious. Her body shook with silent sobs as the weight of loneliness pressed down on her. But even as she cried, she whispered to herself, voice breaking, I love him, and love is worth the pain. She remembered the moments when he had held her hand, when he had smiled at her like she was the only person in the world, when he had said those words that made her heart leap. I could see myself with you forever. I'll be patient, she murmured, wiping her tears on the sleeve of her sweater. I'll wait. I'll forgive him. I just have to love harder. I can fix this. I can make it right. The room was quiet except for her soft sobs and the distant hum of the city outside. And in that quiet, broken space, Amara made a promise to herself, a promise that love was worth everything. Even if it hurt, even if it shattered her, she didn't know then how much heartbreak still awaited her, or how high the price of that love would be. But she clung to hope, clung to the memory of his warmth, and clung to the belief that perhaps, just perhaps, love could heal everything. Note all the characters are blacks and they are all wealthy and wear expensive cloths and the women wear expensive makeup. A month had passed since that night, since the night that had changed everything for Amara. Life had moved in a blur, yet in some ways it had felt like time had frozen. The nights were long, heavy with unanswered questions, and the days were a delicate balance between work and trying to hold herself together. She had barely spoken about Derek, except to tell herself that he no longer mattered, that he was a chapter she could close. But something deep inside her knew that chapter was far from over. It was a quiet Sunday morning when she first noticed the subtle changes in her body. At first, she thought it was just fatigue, the lingering effects of the stress she had carried since that fateful night. She had been juggling her job at the marketing firm with tutoring, evening shifts at a small cafe, and her weekend freelance projects. Sleep had become a luxury, meals often skipped or eaten cold. But now, there was a weight in her stomach, a tenderness that wouldn't fade, and a persistent nausea that no cup of tea or rushed meal could soothe. Her hands trembled as she rummaged through her bathroom cabinet. She found the small white box she had tucked away weeks before, almost forgetting it was there. The instructions had seemed trivial then. But now every detail felt like a test of courage. Her heart pounded as she took a deep breath, her fingers shaking as she opened it. Amara closed her eyes for a moment, bracing herself. Okay, it's just a test. I can handle this, she whispered to herself. When she opened her eyes and saw the two pink lines, her knees buckled. She dropped to the floor, clutching the edge of the sink, her breath catching in her throat. The reality of the test, the undeniable truth of those two lines, slammed into her like a wave. She was pregnant. Tears came instantly, hot and unstoppable. They ran down her face, mingling with the damp strands of hair clinging to her cheeks. She sobbed, rocking back and forth on the cold bathroom floor. No, no, this can't be happening, she whispered, her voice breaking. I can't do this, I'm not ready. But as the initial shock passed, another tide of thought washed over her. The small, frantic movements inside her stomach, the life growing there, it was real. She touched her belly instinctively, pressing her palm against the curve of her abdomen. It's not just me, it's someone else. Someone depending on me. She thought of Derek, her anger, her heartbreak, the way he had thrown her out like she meant nothing. She imagined what he would say if he knew now. Would he care? Would he show any remorse? The answer was clear. He would not, and that only strengthened her resolve. Amara rose shakily from the floor, tears still streaming down her cheeks, and looked at herself in the mirror. She saw the pale, exhausted woman staring back, her eyes red and swollen, her lips trembling, but there was something else there too, a flicker of determination, faint but undeniable. I will not give up, she whispered to her reflection, her voice cracking but firm. I will raise this child. I will give them a life, even if I have to do it alone. The next weeks became a montage of survival. Amara worked tirelessly, sacrificing sleep and comfort, moving from one job to the next. By day, she was at her marketing job, managing clients and deadlines with a focused intensity that masked the fatigue gnawing at her. By evening, she tutored students in mathematics and English, carrying the weight of someone else's dreams while trying to protect her own. At night, she worked shifts at the cafe, serving coffee and pastries with a polite smile that hid the exhaustion in her bones. In the quiet hours of the night, she would sit alone in her tiny apartment, rubbing her belly and speaking softly to the life growing inside her. I promise. I'll take care of you. I'll keep you safe, no matter what it takes, she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper, a mixture of fear and hope trembling in her tone. Her friends and family noticed the changes, though they didn't yet know the full truth. Amara, you look exhausted, Marissa said one evening, concern etched in her face. You're working too hard. Please, you have to take care of yourself. I'm fine, Amara replied, forcing a tired smile. Really, I have things I need to do, things I need to prepare for. And in those quiet moments, when the city slept and the only sound was the soft hum of the refrigerator, Amara allowed herself to imagine the future. She was building a life of struggle, yes, but also one filled with love. A life in which she could protect this child from the cruelty and betrayal she had endured. She learned to stretch every penny, to cook meals that would last for days, to balance her work hours with rest whenever she could snatch a moment. She grew stronger, not just physically but in spirit. Each day was a challenge, but every kick she felt from the baby reminded her why she endured, why she persevered, why she refused to give up on the tiny heartbeat that depended on her. And though there were nights when she cried quietly, exhausted and overwhelmed, she never doubted her choice. She had chosen life. She had chosen love not for Derek, but for the child who was already teaching her the meaning of resilience, courage, and hope. Amara's world had changed, irrevocably, but in that change, she found a new kind of strength, a power she hadn't known existed, born from heartbreak, determination, and the unshakable bond she had formed with the tiny life growing inside her. The rain poured down over Amara like a relentless curtain, soaking through her dress, plastering her hair to her face. She shivered violently, wrapping her arms around herself as if she could hold herself together in that tiny barrier. Warmth. The street around her was nearly empty. Only the occasional passing car splashing water over the curb where she sat. Each drop felt like a hammer against her chest, matching the rhythm of her broken heart. She had loved him. She had loved him with everything inside her, the way her heart would race when he smiled, the way her stomach fluttered when he touched her hand, the way she had imagined their future together, full of laughter, adventure, and endless nights where she would feel safe in his arms. She had believed in that love, even when the cracks started showing, even when she had seen him criticize her, control her, and disappear for hours without explanation. She had ignored every warning, every gut feeling, every voice of reason from those who cared about her. Because she wanted to believe he would change. Because she wanted to believe love could fix everything. And now he was gone. Not gone like a person leaving for work, or gone like a friend moving on. Gone in the way that shattered her entire world. Gone in the way that left her cold, humiliated, and utterly alone. She pressed her face into her knees, sobs racking her body, muffled against the wet fabric of her dress. Why did I love him so much? She thought, her chest tightening so hard it hurt to breathe. Why didn't I see it coming? Why did I think I could fix him? Her phone buzzed faintly in her pocket, but she didn't reach for it. Any message, any call, would just remind her of the warmth she had clung to, the warmth that had been ripped away so cruelly. She closed her eyes and let the tears fall freely, the rain mixing with them, until she couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. Hours passed like this. The storm outside raged on, relentless, as if the world itself understood her pain. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked, and a car honked. But she didn't move, she didn't eat, she didn't think beyond the hollow ache inside her chest, the sense of loss that felt like it had physically lodged itself inside her ribcage. It wasn't until the next morning, when the storm had passed and the sun cast a gray, muted light across the city, that the first seed of another realization planted itself in her mind. She felt different, strange, nauseous, exhausted, with a tenderness in her stomach that made her wince whenever she moved. At first, she tried to dismiss it as stress, as shock, as the hangover that had gripped her after that night, but the feeling didn't fade. If anything, it grew sharper, more insistent. By the end of the week, after a few restless nights of pacing her small apartment, she made herself a cup of tea and sat down with trembling hands. She hadn't told anyone about that night, not her mother, not Marissa, not Lena. She couldn't. Shame, fear, and a raw, aching confusion made her feel trapped, as if admitting the truth would crush her further. Her hands shook as she pulled out a small pregnancy test from the box she had hidden in her cabinet. She had debated for days whether to even use it, whether she could bear the truth if it was bad. She stepped into the bathroom, closed the door, and let the world fade away. Moments later, she stared down at the tiny display that confirmed her worst fear and her impossible reality. She was pregnant. The room spun around her. Her knees buckled, and she sank to the floor, cradling her stomach. "Oh God, what am I going to do?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over the pounding of her own heart. Her mind was a whirlwind of fear, anger, grief, and disbelief. Derek. That name felt like fire on her tongue. How could he be so careless, so cruel, so absent? Tears fell once more, not just from heartbreak this time, but from the crushing weight of the life growing inside her. She was utterly alone, facing a future she hadn't planned for, with a man who had shown his true colors and left her without a shred of mercy. Days turned into nights of quiet suffering. She worked through the pain, through the nausea, through the fear, clinging desperately to the small routines of her life. She reminded herself that she was strong, that she could survive this. She would survive for herself and for the child she carried. Every morning, she whispered promises to the tiny life within her, telling it she would protect it, love it, and give it everything she could, even if the world seemed cruel. Her friends tried again to reach her. Marissa called, and when Amara picked up, her voice was brittle. "Amara, are you okay? I know what happened with Derek. You don't have to go through this alone." "I'm fine," she whispered, forcing a laugh that sounded like a broken echo. "Really, I'm fine. I have things to take care of." But inside, she was not fine. Every night, she cried quietly, wrapping her arms around her growing belly, imagining the life of the child she would bring into the world without the father who had abandoned her. She grieved not just for herself, but for the innocence stolen from her, the love she had believed in, and the dreams that had been shattered on the floor of Derek's mansion. Under the rain that night, and yet, even in the darkest moments, a small flame of hope flickered. She would survive, she would work, she would rise, for herself, and for the tiny heartbeat she felt every morning that reminded her she wasn't truly alone. Amara had lost the men she loved, but she hadn't lost herself. Not yet. Life did not reward Amara with miracles. It rewarded her with moments, small ones, quiet ones, moments so ordinary that, once upon a time, she would not have noticed them. But now, those moments became everything. Some mornings, she woke up before the alarm. Not because she was rested, but because her mind refused to slow down. She would sit on the edge of her bed, rubbing her swollen belly, breathing slowly, listening to the distant sounds of the city waking up, cars passing, birds calling, someone laughing far away. Life was still moving, and so was she. On her way to work one morning, she slipped slightly on the sidewalk. A stranger reached out quickly and steadied her. "Careful," he said gently. "You're too important to fall." Amara laughed, surprised. "Too important," he smiled. "Anyone carrying life is important." She walked away smiling, her heart strangely warm. "He doesn't know me," she thought, "but he spoke to me like I mattered." At the cafe, the smell of coffee and baked bread wrapped around her like comfort. Her feet hurt, her back ached. But when a regular customer walked in and said, "My favorite smile is working today," she felt lighter. "You flatter me," Amara said shyly. "I don't," the man replied. "You make this place feel human." Human. The word stayed with her all day. During lunch breaks at her office job, she began sitting with co-workers instead of eating alone. At first, she listened more than she spoke. She laughed softly at jokes, then louder. One day, someone spilled juice, and the whole table burst into laughter. Amara laughed so hard she had to hold her stomach. "Careful," a coworker joked. "Baby might start laughing too." Amara paused, then smiled. "I hope so." That night, she cried again, but this time, not from pain. From gratitude. "I am not invisible," she thought. I am not alone. In the evenings, Marissa came by often. Sometimes with food. Sometimes with nothing but her presence. You don't talk much anymore, Marissa said once. Amara replied quietly, I'm learning how to listen to myself. They sat in silence, comfortable, safe. That silence healed her more than words ever could. Her inner voice began to change. Slowly, gently. You survived abuse, it said. That does not make you weak. You love deeply, it whispered. That does not make you foolish. You are still standing, it reminded her. That makes you powerful. One night, after a long shift, Amara stood at a bus stop, rain threatening to fall. She was exhausted. Her legs trembled. A woman next to her offered an umbrella. Thank you, Amara said. The woman glanced at her belly. You're brave, Amara shook her head. I'm scared every day. The woman smiled. Bravery is not the absence of fear. It's choosing to keep going. Those words stayed with her for weeks. At home, Amara began preparing for the baby little by little, folding donated clothes, washing tiny socks, talking softly to her belly while cooking. We don't have much, she would say gently. But we have love. And I will protect you. She started planning. Writing budgets. Setting goals. No one was rescuing her. And slowly, she realized she didn't need rescue. She was building something with her own hands. She learned how to say no. Learned how to ask for help without shame. Learned how to rest without guilt. One night, while brushing her teeth, she caught her reflection. She stopped, really looked. Her eyes were tired, yes, but they were clearer, stronger. There was no fear in them anymore. Only resolve. I am enough, she said out loud. Her voice did not shake. For the first time, Amara valued herself not because someone loved her, but because she loved herself. Not because she was chosen, but because she chose herself. She laughed more. She stood taller. She walked forward without looking back. And in the quiet moments, when the world slowed, and it was just her and the life growing inside her, Amara understood something deeply. She had been broken once, but she had rebuilt herself. Stronger, wiser, independent. And nothing, no man, no pain, no past could take that away from her. The hospital room was quiet except for the steady beeping of machines and the sound of Amara's uneven breathing. The air smelled of antiseptic and clean sheets, cold and unfamiliar. Nothing like the warmth she had imagined when she once dreamed of giving birth beside the man she loved. She lay on the narrow bed, sweat clinging to her skin, her fingers gripping the sheets, as another wave of pain rolled through her body. Breathe, Amara, the nurse said gently, standing beside her. Slow breaths. You're doing great, Amara nodded weakly. Though every part of her body ached, her back burned, her stomach tightened, her legs trembled. She had never known pain like this, and yet, beneath it all, there was something stronger than fear pushing her forward. This is for you, she thought. This is for my baby. Her mother stood near the bed, holding her hand tightly. You're not alone, she whispered. I'm here. Amara swallowed hard. She wanted to believe that. She wanted to ignore the empty space on the other side of the room, the space that should have belonged to Derek, the space that reminded her, with every painful second, that he was not there. He had never called, never asked, never shown up. Not once. Anger flared inside her chest, sharp and hot. He doesn't deserve to be here, she told herself. He doesn't deserve to see her. Another contraction hit, stronger than the last. Amara cried out, tears spilling freely now. I can't do this, she whispered. Yes, you can, the nurse said firmly but kindly. You're stronger than you think, and somehow, she believed it. Minutes blurred into hours. Pain came and went in waves. Each time, Amara pushed, cried, breathed, and pushed again. Her voice grew hoarse. Her body felt like it was tearing apart. But she did not give up, not once. Then suddenly, everything changed. I can see her head, the doctor said calmly. One more push, Amara. Just one. Amara gathered everything she had left. Every tear she had cried. Every night she had survived alone. Every insult she had swallowed. Every promise she had made to the life growing inside her. With a cry that came from the deepest part of her soul, she pushed. And then she heard it. A small, sharp cry filled the room. Her baby's cry. Time stopped. She's here, the nurse said softly, smiling. You have a beautiful baby girl. Amara's breath caught in her throat. My baby, she whispered. The nurse placed a tiny, warm bundle on her chest. The moment their skin touched, something inside Amara shattered and healed at the same time. Leela, her daughter, so small, so perfect. Her skin was soft and warm. Her tiny fingers curled instinctively against Amara's chest. Her cry faded into soft whimpers as she settled, her face pressed against her mother's heart. Amara sobbed openly now, tears streaming down her face as she wrapped her arms around her child. Oh my God. Hi, she whispered shakily. Hi, my love. I'm your mama. Leela blinked slowly, her dark eyes opening just a little, as if trying to understand the world she had entered. Amara laughed through her tears, a broken, beautiful sound. You're real, she whispered. You're really here. In that moment, nothing else mattered. Not the pain. Not the exhaustion. Not the betrayal. All the loneliness she had carried for months melted away as Leela's tiny hand wrapped around her finger. Unconditional love crashed over her like a wave. This is what love is supposed to feel like, she thought. Safe, pure, honest. Her joy was quickly followed by a sharp ache. Her eyes drifted again to the empty space in the room. No flowers. No messages. No footsteps rushing in late with apologies. Nothing. Derek was gone. Completely absent. And for the first time, Amara did not feel the urge to cry for him. She felt anger. Cold, steady anger. You chose not to be here, she thought. And you will never get this moment back. She looked back at Leela, brushing her thumb gently over her daughter's cheek. It's just us, she whispered. And that's okay. Her mother leaned closer, tears in her own eyes. She's beautiful, she said softly. She is, Amara replied, her voice full of awe. She's everything. The nurse smiled as she adjusted the blankets. She knows your voice already. She's been listening to you for months. Amara bent her head closer to Leela, her tears falling onto the blanket. I talk to you every night, she whispered. I told you I'd protect you. I meant it. Leela stirred slightly, her tiny mouth opening as if answering her. Amara held her tighter, her voice trembling with emotion. I promise you something, she whispered. You will never feel unwanted. You will never feel alone. I will give you a better life. Even if I have nothing else to give, I will give you love. She closed her eyes, pressing her lips gently to Lila's forehead. I will be enough for you, she whispered, I swear, in that hospital room. Surrounded by quiet beeping machines and soft light, Amara understood something profound. She had lost a man who never truly loved her, but she had gained a daughter who would love her without conditions, and that love changed everything. 3 years passed, not loudly, not with celebration, but quietly, through hard work, sleepless nights, and small victories. Amara was no longer the broken woman who once cried outside a mansion gate in the rain. She stood taller now, her eyes were clearer, her voice steadier. Life had tested her deeply, but it had not defeated her. On the evening of the charity gala, Amara stood in front of a mirror in a modest but elegant apartment. Soft lights reflected off the glass as she adjusted the simple navy blue gown she wore. It was not flashy, but it fit her perfectly. It spoke of confidence, not desperation, grace, not dependence. "Mama," a small voice said behind her. She turned and smiled. Leela stood there in a tiny cream-colored dress, her curls neatly done, her eyes bright and curious. She looked up at her mother with pure trust and excitement. "Are we going to the big party now?" "Yes, sweetheart," Amara said, kneeling to Leela's level. "But remember, it's not a playground. You have to stay close to me." Leela nodded seriously, then grinned. "Okay, Mama. I'll be good." Amara laughed softly and kissed her forehead. As she stood, she caught her own reflection again and barely recognized the woman she used to be. "You survived," she thought. "You grew." The gala hall was grand, filled with chandeliers, soft classical music, and people dressed in wealth and confidence. The air smelled of perfume and polished floors. Amara walked in holding Leela's hand firmly, her posture calm, her heart steady. She belonged here, not because of money, but because she had earned her place through strength. "Mama, look," Leela whispered, pointing at the lights above. "They're like stars." Amara smiled. "Yes, they are." People turned to look at them as they passed. Some smiled at Leela. Some nodded politely at Amara. She exchanged greetings, spoke with donors, and answered polite questions about her work and her daughter. She felt proud. Present. Alive. Then everything shifted. She felt it before she saw it. A tightness in her chest. A sudden coldness in the air. Her eyes lifted across the room. And there he was. Derek. He stood near the bar, dressed in an expensive black suit, his posture confident, his smile arrogant. He looked older, sharper, but unchanged. The same controlling energy clung to him like a shadow. He laughed loudly at something someone said, completely unaware that the past was standing only a few steps away. Amara's fingers tightened. On Lila's hand, her heart began to pound. "Mama," her mind whispered. "Run, freeze." Leela looked up at her. "Mama, are you okay?" Amara forced a smile, though her breath felt shallow. "I'm fine," she said softly. "Just stay close." Across the room, Derek turned slightly. His eyes scanned the crowd lazily, confidently. Then they paused. His gaze lingered. Narrowed. He saw her. For a brief second, confusion crossed his face. Then recognition. Then disbelief. Amara felt the weight of his stare like a hand gripping her throat. Memories flashed quickly. His voice, his anger, the night he threw her out, the rain, the pain. But she did not flinch. She stood still. Derek's lips curled into a familiar smirk as he took a step forward. "Well," he muttered to himself, "look who's here." Suspense hung thick in the air as he began walking toward her, his steps slow, deliberate, possessive, like a hunter who believed the prey was still weak. Amara's heart raced, but her feet stayed planted. I am not that woman anymore, she told herself. Not tonight. Leela squeezed her hand. Mama, who's that man? Amara swallowed hard. No one, she said quietly. Just stay with me. Derek drew closer now, his eyes flicking to the child beside her, then back to Amara. His expression shifted slightly, curiosity mixing with control. He opened his mouth, ready to speak. Ready to reclaim his space in her life without permission. The moment stretched. Viewers could feel it, the inevitable collision, the confrontation waiting to explode. But Amara did not yet know that fate had something unexpected waiting just a few steps away. Amara's heart began to pound harder, not with fear for herself, but with fear for Leela. She could handle Derek's words, his arrogance, his need to control the space around him. She had survived worse. But seeing his eyes linger on her daughter sent a quiet panic through her chest, sharp and fast, like glass cutting through calm water. Not her, Amara thought urgently. He must not touch her world. Leela shifted closer to her leg, sensing the tension even if she did not understand it. Mama, she whispered again, her voice smaller now. Can we go home, soon? Amara said softly, forcing steadiness into her tone. Just stay with me. Derek leaned in slightly, his voice dropping. You didn't answer my question, he said. Who is the child? Amara's mouth opened, then closed again. Her mind raced. She could feel herself slipping, just a little, and she hated it. She hated that he could still pull this reaction from her. Hated that 3 years of strength could feel fragile in a single moment. Her eyes darted past Derek's shoulder again, desperate. That was when she truly noticed Julian. He stood a short distance away, holding a drink loosely, watching the room like someone who found people endlessly interesting. He wore a tailored suit, but unlike the others, he looked relaxed, almost playful, as if he were attending the gala for entertainment rather than obligation. His smile was easy, his eyes sharp, the kind of man who noticed details and enjoyed them. Their eyes met for a brief second. Julian raised an eyebrow slightly, amused, as if silently asking, Is everything all right over there? Amara's breath caught. She did not have time to think. Derek shifted again, impatient, his control slipping. The crowd around them was beginning to pay attention. She needed a shield. Not tomorrow, not later, now. I'll be right back, Amara said suddenly to Derek, her voice firm. Before he could reply, she turned, taking Lila's hand quickly and moving toward Julian. Each step felt heavy, rushed, dangerous. Her heart hammered as she approached him, every instinct screaming that she was about to do something reckless. Julian watched her come closer, his smile deepening slightly. You look like someone running from trouble, he said lightly when she reached him. Amara swallowed hard. I am, she replied honestly. He glanced down at Leela, then back at Amara. That makes 2 of you, he said gently. What kind of trouble? Amara took a shaky breath. Her voice dropped to a whisper, urgent and raw. Please, she said. I know this sounds crazy. I wouldn't ask if I had any other choice. Julian's amusement softened into curiosity. Go on. She leaned closer, her words tumbling out fast, barely controlled. There's a man over there. My ex. He's dangerous to my peace. He thinks he still owns my past. I can't let him see me weak. And I can't let him question my child. Julian studied her face carefully now. The confidence, the fear beneath it, the protective way she held the little girl's hand. And what do you want from me? He asked calmly. Amara's eyes glistened. I need you to pretend, she said, just for 5 minutes. Please, pretend. You're my husband. Julian blinked once, then he laughed softly, not mocking, but surprised. Your husband? Yes, she said quickly. 5 minutes. That's all. You don't even have to say much. Just stand with me, touch my hand, make it believable. Leela looked up at Julian, curious. Are you my daddy's friend? She asked innocently. Julian's laughter stopped. Something shifted in his expression, something unreadable. He crouched slightly to Lila's level. Smiling warmly, I might be, he said gently. He stood again, looking at Amara with new interest. You know, he said, most people ask me for money or favors. Amara nodded, ashamed but desperate. I'm sorry, I know it's inappropriate. He raised a hand, stopping her. His smile returned. Slower this time. No, he said. It's interesting. She frowned slightly. Interesting, yes. He replied, and a little fun. He glanced over her shoulder, immediately spotting Derek, the tension, the story written clearly across the space between them. Julian chuckled under his breath. Let me guess, he said. He doesn't like losing. Amara's lips pressed together. He doesn't believe he ever loses. Julian straightened, his posture changing subtly, less playful now, more commanding. He extended his arm toward her. All right, he said. 5 minutes. Her eyes widened. You'll do it, for 5 minutes, he repeated. Consider it a social experiment. Relief flooded through her so fast it almost made her dizzy. She hesitated only a second before placing her hand on his arm. His touch was warm, steady, grounding. Thank you, she whispered. Julian leaned in slightly, his voice low enough that only she could hear. Relax, he said. If we're doing this, we're doing it properly. He gently pulled her closer, his arm settling naturally on her waist. Protective without being forceful. Leela watched them closely, then smiled. Oddly comforted. As they turned together, facing Derek, the air shifted. The game had begun. Leela did not let go. The moment Derek disappeared into the crowd, the tension in the air loosened, but something else quietly took its place. Leela wrapped both her small arms around Julian's leg, pressing her cheek against him as if she had known him all her life. Her grip was firm, stubborn, possessive in the way only children could be. Daddy, she said again, louder this time. The word echoed softly between them. Amara froze. Her heart skipped, then thudded painfully in her chest. She bent slightly, reaching for Leela. Sweetheart, she whispered gently, trying to smile. You shouldn't call him that. He's just helping us. Leela shook her head fiercely. Curls bouncing. No, she said. Her voice trembling. He's Daddy. He protected us. Julian looked down, surprised. The playful confidence he had worn so easily faltered for just a second. He crouched slowly, meeting Leela at eye level. Hey, he said softly. I'm right here, okay? Leela immediately climbed into his arms without asking, resting her head against his chest as if it were the most natural thing in the world. The surrounding noise of the gala faded into a distant hum. Amara's breath caught. I'm so sorry, she said quickly, embarrassed and flustered. She's never done this before. Julian didn't move her away. Instead, he adjusted his hold slightly so Leela was comfortable. His voice was calm, thoughtful. It's all right, he said. She's not wrong. Amara blinked. What? She felt safe. Julian continued. Children don't pretend about that. Her throat tightened. She looked away, blinking back sudden tears. She's been through a lot, Amara said quietly. It's just been us for so long. Leela lifted her head and looked at Amara seriously. "Mama cries at night," she said softly. Unaware of how deeply her words cut. "Daddy shouldn't make Mama cry." Julian's jaw tightened slightly. Amara knelt in front of them, her hands shaking as she brushed Lila's cheek. "Mama is okay now," she whispered. "I promise." Leela studied her, unconvinced, then turned back to Julian. Clinging tighter. "Don't go," she pleaded. The request hung heavy in the air. Amara straightened. Slowly, her heart torn into directions. Logic screamed that this was temporary, a favor, a coincidence. Emotion whispered something dangerous, something hopeful. Across the room, movement caught Julian's eye. Derek stood near the edge of the hall, pretending to laugh with a group of guests. But his eyes kept drifting back, watching, calculating. The humiliation still burned on his face. And beneath it simmered resentment. Amara noticed Julian's gaze shift. Her stomach knotted. "Do you think he'll come back?" she asked quietly. Julian's voice was low. "Men like him don't like losing," he said. "They wait." Fear crept up her spine. "I don't want trouble," she whispered. "I just wanted peace." Julian looked at her then, really looked at her. Not as a favor. Not as a game. His expression softened. "You deserve peace," he said firmly. Leela yawned, still clinging to him. "Daddy, carry me," she murmured. Julian smiled faintly. "Looks like I don't have much choice." Amara hesitated, then nodded slowly. Just for now," she said, trying to convince herself more than him. He stood with Leela, and his arms naturally, protectively, as if the role fit him far too well. As they began to walk, whispers followed. Curious glances. Unspoken questions. Amara walked beside him, her mind racing. Is Derek watching? Is this safe? Is this really just pretend? She glanced up at Julian. He caught her look and smiled slightly. 5 minutes, he reminded her gently. But Leela tightened her arms round his neck and whispered sleepily, "Daddy stays." Julian did not correct her. And somewhere across the room, Derek's eyes darkened, his pride bruised, his control slipping further away. Suspense tightened like a held breath, because nothing about this felt temporary anymore. Derek approached with the same careless confidence he had always carried, his step slow, his smile sharp, already prepared to cut Amara down with words. In his mind, this moment belonged to him. He had rehearsed it silently, the belittling tone, the reminder of who he used to be to her, the power he believed he still held. He did not expect resistance. He did not expect her to be standing there calmly, her hand resting lightly on another man's arm. Derek stopped a few feet away, his eyes narrowing as he took in the scene. Amara stood tall, her face composed, Leela safely tucked close to her side. And beside her stood Julian, relaxed but alert, his posture open yet unmistakably dominant, like a man who knew exactly who he was. Derek scoffed. "So this is what you've been doing," he said, his voice dripping with mockery. Hiding behind strangers now, Amara opened her mouth to speak, but Julian moved first. He stepped slightly forward, just enough to place himself between Derek and Amara. It was a subtle movement, but it carried weight. His voice was calm, even friendly, but firm in a way that froze the air around them. "Excuse me," Julian said. "You're standing too close." Derek blinked, surprised. He laughed once, short and dismissive. "And you are?" Julian glanced down at Amara, then back at Derek. His arm tightened gently round her waist. Her husband. The word landed like a slap. The surrounding noise seemed to fade. Derek's smile faltered, just for a second, but it was enough. His eyes flicked from Julian's face to Amara's, searching for doubt, weakness, denial. He found none. Husband, Derek repeated slowly, disbelief creeping into his voice. That's funny. Julian's expression did not change. I don't see what's funny, he replied. What I do see is a man bothering my wife. Derek stepped forward instinctively, irritation flaring. This is between me and her, he snapped, reaching out as if to emphasize his point. Julian moved faster. He raised a hand, not touching Derek, but stopping him with nothing but presence. His voice dropped, quiet but commanding. Do not touch my wife. The firmness and his tone sent a ripple through the space on them. People nearby slowed their conversations. Heads turned. Attention gathered. Derek froze. For the first time, uncertainty crossed his face. He took a closer look at Julian now. The confidence, the ease, the unmistakable authority that did not need to shout. Recognition dawned slowly. Painfully, Julian smiled slightly. You should step back, he said. Now, Derek's jaw clenched. You don't know who you're talking to. Julian chuckled softly. I know exactly who I'm talking to, he replied. And I also know this is not your place. Amara stood silently behind him, her heart pounding, her breath shallow. She had never seen Derek stop like this. Never seen someone stand up to him so effortlessly. For the first time in years, she did not feel small. Leela looked up at Julian and whispered, Daddy. The words slipped out innocent and clear. Derek's face drained of color. Julian felt Amara tense, but he did not move away. Instead, he glanced down at Leela with a gentle smile. Yes, sweetheart, he said easily. I'm right here. The room felt like it tilted. Derek took a step back, then another. His voice came out strained. This is ridiculous, he muttered. You think this changes anything? Julian leaned in slightly, his smile gone now. It already has. Silence followed. Derek looked around, realizing eyes were on him, judging, watching. The power he had walked in with slipped through his fingers. He straightened his jacket stiffly. His pride wounded. This isn't over, he said weakly. Julian met his gaze. Unbothered. For you, he replied. It is. Derek hesitated, then turned and walked away, his retreat slow but unmistakable. As he disappeared into the crowd, a quiet wave of satisfaction washed through the room. Poetic justice. Unspoken but felt. Amara exhaled shakily, tears filling her eyes. She looked up at Julian. Her voice barely a whisper. Thank you. Julian smiled down at her. Anytime, he said. Looks like my 5 minutes aren't up yet. And for the first time, in a very long while, Amara smiled without fear. At first, they told themselves it was only for Leela. Nothing more. Nothing complicated. Julian began visiting Amara's apartment under simple excuses. He would say he was in the area. Or that Leela had asked about him. Or that he just wanted to check if they were okay. Amara accepted each visit carefully, cautiously, as if one wrong step might wake the ghosts of her past. The first afternoon he came over, Amara felt nervous in a way she had not felt in years. She tidied the small living room twice, straightened cushions that were already straight, and checked the kitchen sink even though she knew it was clean. Mama. Daddy is coming, Leela announced happily, dragging a small stool toward the window. Amara froze. Leela, she said gently, remember what we talked about. But he said he'd visit, Leela replied, turning to her with wide eyes. Daddy's visit. Amara sighed softly. Kneeling in front of her daughter. He's Julian, she said. He's our friend, Leela thought about this seriously, then nodded. Okay, she said, but he's still daddy in my heart. Before Amara could respond, there was a knock at the door. Julian stepped in moments later, dressed casually, nothing like the polished billionaire from the gala. He carried a small bag of groceries in one hand and a children's book in the other. I hope this is okay, he said, holding them up. I wasn't sure what 3-year-olds like, so I guessed. Leela gasped and ran to him. Daddy. Julian laughed softly and crouched, opening his arms. She flew into them without hesitation. I brought you something, he said, handing her the book. Amara watched from a distance, her chest tightening. Derek had never knelt like that, never lowered himself, never laughed so freely. Thank you, she said quietly when Julian looked up. He shrugged lightly. It felt right. That evening, Julian stayed longer than planned. He helped prepare dinner, rolling up his sleeves without being asked. When Leela spilled juice on the floor, Amara rushed for a cloth out of habit, already bracing herself for anger that never came. It's okay, Julian said calmly, wiping the spill himself. It happens. Leela giggled. Daddy cleans too. Amara laughed despite herself, a small sound that surprised her. As days turned into weeks, Julian became part of their rhythm. He learned how Leela liked her hair braided. He remembered which bedtime song made her fall asleep faster. He sat patiently on the floor, building towers only to let Leela knock them down again and again. One evening, Amara watched from the kitchen doorway as Julian struggled gently with a stubborn button on Leela's pajamas. Why is this so tiny? He muttered, squinting. Leela laughed. Because I'm small, he smiled. Not for long. Amara felt something shift inside her, a warmth, a sadness, a hope she had buried long ago. Later that night, after Leela was asleep, Julian and Amara sat quietly on opposite ends of the couch. She's amazing, Julian said softly. She saved me, Amara replied without thinking. He turned toward her. You saved yourself. The words settled deep. Slowly, Amara found herself laughing again. Real laughter. The kind that came without fear of consequences. Julian teased her gently. He listened without interrupting. When she spoke about her past, he did not rush her, did not question her pain, did not minimize it. One night, when memories overwhelmed her, she broke down quietly in the kitchen. Julian found her there, hands shaking, tears falling. I thought I was strong, she whispered, but sometimes it still hurts. He didn't touch her at first. He just stayed. Healing isn't forgetting, he said. It's learning that the pain no longer controls you. Eventually, she leaned into him. Just slightly. He did not pull away. Leela became the bridge between them. She held their hands together when they walked. She smiled when they laughed together. She called them both home. And slowly, without realizing when it happened, Amara stopped thinking of Julian as a favor, or a shield, or a temporary presence. She began thinking of him as family. The sparks were quiet at first, gentle, dangerous, and very real. The first sign was subtle, almost innocuous. A single bouquet of white lilies, perfectly arranged, appeared at her doorstep. No card, no signature. The scent was intoxicating, sweet, sharp, reminding her of Derek's taste, his world, the life she had left behind. Amara stared at the flowers, her fingers trembling slightly. Leela tugged at her dress, curiosity shining in her eyes. Mama, who's them for? They're nothing, Amara whispered, forcing a calm smile. Someone made a mistake. Julian, standing quietly behind her, noticed the faint tremor in her hands. "Mistakes like that don't happen by accident," he said softly. His tone carried no accusation, only observation. Amara felt a mix of shame and relief. He always seemed to see the truth without making her feel weak. Then came the envelope, thick, heavy, slipped under the door as if it had been waiting for her. She hesitated before picking it up, feeling a sudden, uncomfortable weight in her stomach. Inside was a check, an amount so large it could cover months, no, years of her struggles. Her fingers shook as she held it, staring at the numbers that screamed wealth she had never wanted, wealth that reminded her of a man who had once tried to control her with it. Julian's eyes followed hers. He did not touch the check. He just said quietly, "He thinks this will fix everything." Amara folded it carefully. "It won't," she said. Leela peeked from behind her small chair. "Mama, is that money?" "Yes, sweetie," Amara whispered, her voice low. "But it's nothing we need." Days later, he appeared in person, leaning against a sleek black car outside her office. Dressed in his signature tailored suit, every detail screamed Derek confidence, arrogance, entitlement. Amara froze for a moment. Her heart betrayed her by skipping erratically, old fear surfacing like a tide she thought she had controlled. But she did not step back. She could not let Leela see her falter. "Amara," Derek said, smooth and sharp as always. "You look good. What do you want?" she asked, her voice steady, though the tremor in her fingers betrayed her nerves. "To talk," he replied, calm, rehearsed. Like adults. Julian moved instinctively beside her. He did not speak yet, but the subtle shift in posture, the protective stance, the slight narrowing of his eyes was enough to unsettle Derek. "I'm not here to fight," Derek continued quickly. "I came to apologize. I was wrong, immature, stressed. But I've changed." Amara laughed softly, the sound hollow and bitter. "You always say that." "I mean it," he insisted. "And I want to make it right. Look at what I can give you now: security, comfort, a real life. You don't have to struggle anymore." Julian's hand moved just slightly, brushing against hers, not in a romantic gesture yet, but in quiet solidarity. He didn't say a word. But his presence alone made Derek falter for a fraction of a second. "You don't have to struggle," Derek repeated, gesturing vaguely to the car, to the power, to the life he thought would lure her back. "Think about your daughter. She deserves the best." Amara's chest tightened. She swallowed, her mind flashing to nights of tears, hunger, exhaustion. The nights she had begged silently for just a moment of his care. "You left us," she said quietly but firmly. "You didn't call. You didn't ask. You didn't care. I didn't know you didn't want to know," she interrupted, her voice gaining strength with each word. She felt Julian's calm confidence beside her, grounding her, anchoring her to the present, to safety. Derek's face tightened, a mask of anger hiding the flicker of surprise that crossed his eyes. "You think this man is better?" he snapped. Amara's voice dropped, steady and unwavering. "I don't think, I know." Julian's gaze did not waver. Derek shifted his weight. Anger and disbelief battling inside him, he opened his mouth to speak again. But Amara spoke first. "No," she said. "We are done with you. Your time, your control. Your words, it's over." Derek's jaw clenched. His pride, bruised beyond repair, flared dangerously. "This isn't over," he said, voice low and menacing. Amara stepped closer to Julian instinctively, her hand gripping his lightly. She met Derek's gaze, unwavering, fierce. "For me," she said quietly but firmly. "It is Derek hesitated. He could see the truth now. Amara had grown beyond him. She had learned her value. She had survived, and he could no longer intimidate her with money, power, or words. For the first time, he realized that no matter how much he tried, he could not reclaim what he had thrown away. Finally, he turned, walking away, stiff and defeated. Julian exhaled slowly, still holding her hand. Amara felt a strange mix of relief and disbelief. For years, she had feared this confrontation. Now it had happened, and she had not only survived, it had not broken her. Leela, sensing the tension dissipate, climbed into Julian's arms again, hugging him tightly. "Daddy," she whispered. Amara looked at them, tears welling. Her past had chased her, tried to trap her, tried to buy her back. But now, she stood in the sunlight after the storm, and for the first time, the future looked calm, steady, and free. And yet, in the quiet corners of her mind, the question lingered: will he come back? Will he try again? Julian, reading her thoughts, squeezed her hand gently. "We handle it together," he said softly. Amara nodded, feeling the weight of the past finally lifting, even if the shadow of it still hovered faintly at the edges. Suspense remained. Derek had lost this battle. But she knew men like him never truly surrendered without a fight. And deep inside, Amara also knew, this time, she was ready. The day began softly, almost quietly, as if the world itself knew something profound was about to happen. Sunlight streamed gently through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the small, elegant wedding hall. Golden light spilling across cream-colored chairs and delicate floral arrangements. White roses, lilies, and soft greenery filled every corner, their scent drifting lightly, sweet and calming. The atmosphere was peaceful, yet charged. Every heartbeat seemed louder, every whisper heavier. Amara stood alone in the bridal suite for a long moment, staring at her reflection in the mirror. The dress was simple, flowing, white, elegant, not extravagant, but perfect. Her hair fell softly over her shoulders, her makeup subtle, enhancing her natural beauty. She touched her belly lightly where Leela, now a strong and bright little girl of 4, had curled up sleeping, resting her small head on her mother's lap for a final nap before the ceremony. Amara's mind raced. This is real. After everything, after Derek, after the pain, after all those nights I thought I'd never smile again, I am here. I am here with him. With Julian. With our family. Julian had insisted on seeing her first before anyone else. "I need to see you," he said softly on the phone that morning. "Before everyone else. Just you. Just us. I need to see the woman I get to call my wife before she becomes my wife." Now, he appeared in the doorway, dressed simply in a tailored navy suit, no extravagance, just clean lines, a crisp white shirt, and that familiar calm confidence that had first drawn Amara to him months ago. He stopped when he saw her, just standing there in the morning light, radiant and fragile and beautiful all at once. For a long moment, neither spoke. Julian's eyes softened, filling with emotion, as if he was taking her in for the first time again, seeing not only her beauty but the strength it had taken to get here. "You're breathtaking," he said finally, voice low, almost a whisper. Amara felt heat rise to her cheeks. She looked down, embarrassed, but her lips trembled into a small smile. "You look very handsome too," she replied softly. Julian stepped closer, closing the distance slowly, as if not to rush the moment. "We made it," he said quietly, "after everything. We made it." Amara swallowed. I never thought this would happen. Not after everything." He reached out, taking her hands gently in his. I knew it could. I believed it could. And I will spend every day making sure you never regret it. Her eyes filled with tears. She blinked rapidly, trying to hold back the wave of emotion threatening to spill. Julian, I love you. More than I can say. I love you too, Amara, he whispered, and I always will. They shared a quiet moment before leaving the bridal suite, holding hands as they walked down the hallway together. Leela was waiting at the end, dressed in a tiny white dress that matched her mother's. Her curls bouncing, eyes shining, the little girl ran to them, wrapping her arms around Julian's legs first. Daddy, she shouted, her small voice full of joy and certainty. Julian picked her up, laughing softly, holding her close. Hey, princess, are you ready to see your mama get married? Yes. Leela squealed. I'm so excited. Mama is finally married. Amara chuckled through tears, feeling her heart swell. Seeing Leela happy, seeing Julian's steady, loving presence, feeling the weight of the past finally lifted was almost too much to bear. The ceremony was small, intimate, and the legal office where the papers had been quietly prepared. Only a handful of friends and family were present, each face warm with joy. Amara and Julian stood side by side, hands intertwined, hearts racing in perfect unison. The officiant began speaking, the words formal, but the gravity of the moment was overwhelming. Do you, Julian, take Amara to be your lawfully wedded wife, to love, to honor, to cherish, in sickness and in health, in wealth and in poverty, as long as you both shall live? I do, Julian said, his voice firm, unwavering, carrying every ounce of truth he had ever felt for her. Amara's chest tightened. Her hands shook slightly as she whispered, I do, her voice trembling, full of emotion. It was not a rehearsed answer, not an obligation. It was every promise she had made to herself over the past years, the promise to survive, to love fully, to embrace happiness despite the scars of the past. Julian lifted her hand gently, brushing a kiss across her knuckles, then took both of her hands in his. You have no idea, he murmured softly, how happy you make me. How much I've dreamed of this moment, of us. Amara's tears finally fell freely, streaming down her cheeks. I can't believe it, she whispered, voice breaking. I'm finally happy. Julian leaned close, resting his forehead against hers. We did this together, he said, his breath warm against her skin. All of it. And it's just the beginning. The officiant smiled gently. By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Julian's eyes filled with emotion as he bent down, taking Amara's face in his hands. You're mine, Amara, he whispered, and I am yours, forever. Amara closed her eyes, letting the weight of the moment fill her completely. Forever, she repeated. The words solid, real, heavy with meaning. Leela clapped her tiny hands and shouted, Hooray! Mama and Daddy. Julian laughed softly, picking her up and spinning her round. We did it, princess, he said. We're a family. Amara watched them, her heart full, a smile breaking through her tears. She looked up at Julian, seeing not just the man she loved, but the life she had fought for, the love she had finally earned. The past, Derek's betrayal, the sleepless nights, the pain, they all felt like distant shadows now, powerless against this radiant light of love and family. And as Julian kissed her gently, softly, with reverence and promise, she realized she had never felt more complete in her entire life. They had survived, they had loved, they had won. The adoption papers sat neatly on the polished wooden table, crisp and official, waiting to be signed. Amara stared at them for a long moment, her fingers tracing the edges of the folder. Every curve, every crease felt significant. This wasn't just paper. This wasn't just bureaucracy. It was the final step, the sealing of a promise, a declaration that the little family they had built, through laughter, struggle, tears, and hope, was now unbreakable. Leela, dressed in her Sunday best dress, bounced lightly on the balls of her feet beside Julian. Her small hands were entwined with his, and the pure joy radiating from her 4-year-old face made Amara's chest ache with emotion. Julian knelt so he was level with Leela, his eyes sparkling. "Are you ready, princess?" he asked gently, brushing a stray curl from her forehead. "Ready," Leela exclaimed, clapping her tiny hands. "Daddy is going to be my daddy forever." Amara laughed through tears, the sound breaking and beautiful. "She's very serious about this," she said softly. "Do you promise to take care of her, Julian?" "I promise," Julian said without hesitation, his voice steady, deep, warm. "I promise to love her, protect her, guide her, and never let her feel anything less than the safe, happy life she deserves. Not just today, but every day for the rest of her life," Leela squealed, throwing her arms round his neck. "I knew it. I knew Daddy would never let me down." Julian hugged her tightly, lifting her slightly off the ground. "And I'll never let either of you down," he whispered, tears brimming in his eyes. "You're my family now. Both of you. Forever." Amara's heart swelled so much it felt like it might burst. She stepped closer, placing a hand over Julian's as he held Leela, feeling the warmth and the steady strength in his touch. For a moment, she closed her eyes, letting herself absorb everything, the love, the security, the relief. She thought of the long, lonely nights she had endured, the tears she had cried in silence, the exhaustion of raising Leela alone. And now, here they were, her daughters safe, her heart full. The man she loved standing with them, solid and unwavering. When Julian signed the adoption papers first, Leela clapped again, dancing on in small, excited circles. "Daddy did it. Daddy is officially my daddy." Julian took her hand again, squeezing it gently. "We did it together," he said softly. "Yes," she whispered. "We really did." The moment felt suspended in time. Outside, sunlight filtered through the windows, casting a warm glow over them, as if the world itself were blessing this new chapter. Leela, still clinging to Julian, looked up at him with her big, innocent eyes. "Daddy," she said simply, reverently. "I love you, Daddy." Julian's throat tightened. He knelt again, holding her small hands. "I love you too, princess," he said softly. "More than anything." Amara watched, her tears continuing to fall, but now they were tears of pure joy, of release, of hope finally realized. She bent slightly, pressing a gentle kiss to Lila's hair, whispering, "You did it, my love. You are our family, forever." For a long moment, they simply stood there, holding each other, three souls bound not by blood alone, but by love, trust, and shared history. The past, with all its heartbreak, its betrayals, its sleepless nights and tears, was finally behind them. It no longer held power. They were free together. Finally, Amara looked around the room. At the small details she had noticed but hadn't he truly seen before, the sunlight bouncing off the polished floors, the flowers' soft fragrance, the laughter still lingering from their celebration. She realized that life could be gentle, that love could heal, that happiness was no longer something she had to chase alone. Julian lifted Leela into his arms again, spinning her gently, her laughter ringing through the room. "Look, Mama," she squealed. "We're the best family ever." Amara smiled, a full, radiant smile. Wiping the last of her tears, Yes, she whispered. We are. The camera or the narration would slowly pan back, capturing the three of them together. Julian, strong and protective, Amara, serene and radiant, and Leela, laughing freely. Completely secure in the love surrounding her, their hands intertwined, faces glowing, hearts beating together in harmony. The long shadows of the past, the pain, the betrayal, the loneliness faded completely, replaced by warmth, joy, and a love that promised fervor. And in that slow, lingering moment, the story finally settled. 3 hearts, 1 family, laughter replacing tears, love replacing fear. The world outside would continue, but inside this little universe, everything was perfect. They had survived. They had loved. They had conquered the past. And now, nothing could ever break them.